Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. We have been working on this Allied Leisure Hearts Spades pinball machine. Now, it's not called Hearts and Spades, it's just called Hearts Spades. This is a cocktail pinball machine. You sit down to play it. The top of it is over there, but it basically looks like this. So we've done a couple videos on it so far. We did one last time where we actually 3D printed flippers for it. The flippers are unobtainium, so we switched over to some Bally flipper mechs and then put in 3D printed flipper bats that are slightly larger than traditional ones, similar to the original ones that were on this machine. And we worked through it a little bit, and we have discovered that the game board has a few problems. So the switches aren't working, or some of the switches aren't working. One of the switches previously was locked on, now it ain't doing nothing, and which is causing none of the scoring to work. And the one of the coils is locked on, and so there's just issues like that. But the first thing that I want to do next is we kind of need to clean up the playfield and work on some of that, just to make sure that there's not a stuck switch somewhere that's causing us all kinds of problems. Sometimes, I don't know about on this particular board set, but on some of the games, if you have a stuck switch or a messed up diode or something, it causes problems where some of the other switches don't work. This one doesn't really use a switch matrix, or it doesn't use a switch matrix at all. The switches are independently controlled by PIA, peripheral interface adapter chips on the MPU just directly, so they don't use a matrix or anything. There's really not that many switches on it. But none of those are working to score. If you look, some of them say 500, some of them say 1,000. It's kind of like that. There's just not a lot of different things that you can score. But we're not going to get into that right now. First, we're just going to clean up the playfield, do our traditional thing that we do, get all the light bulbs working, get all the plastics cleaned up, because we're to the point where once we get that done, we're going to start working on the board, and we're going to need to actually try to play it a little bit. And I don't like to play the games whenever they're dirty and have an old pinball in it, and you can just cause all kinds of problems with wear on the playfield and things. Plus, the rubber rings are broken and everything, so the ball gets stuck. So that's what we're going to do next. So this is what we're starting with. The thing is in very nice shape. Probably wasn't played all that much. The flippers are actually pretty strong. I don't know for sure that the original ones were, but our replacement ones are. So that's the condition that it's in. I would go so far as to say that the playfield is almost perfect. There is a little bit of cupping to the inserts where they've shrunken a little bit over the years, which is just a thing that plastic inserts do. I'm not even going to attempt to fix that. We usually just leave all that, and it's kind of minor. But that would be the reason you couldn't say that the thing's in perfect shape. It's probably faded a little bit too, but it's in really, really nice shape, which probably most of these are. So that's what we're starting with. I'm going to get Joe to clean it up for us, and then we'll come back and I guess we'll see what we can do about that game board. Okay, so Joe got it all cleaned up. We don't have the pop bumper caps on it right now because he said that they were a little weird the way the light bulbs work, so we're going to check that out here on the video to show some of the differences. By the way, this thing is sitting on a cart, so it's sitting all crooked and everything. Believe it or not, these actually have legs. You can extend that down. Or on some of them you can. I think you can on this one. So you can make it actually stand up a little bit. But there's leg levelers too that go in the corners. We'll mess with that later. So yeah, it came out pretty good. The flippers, if you watched the previous video, they were made out of just the regular filament that the 3D printers use. Matt has gotten some nylon coming that he's going to make some nice nylon ones for us that are stronger. This thing cleaned up very nice. It was already in nice shape, but just look at the sheen on it. We've had people ask us in videos before, why do you put wax on the Playfield? That's why. It's just an amazing look whenever you've got a nicely waxed Playfield. All the plastics are in pretty good shape. With it clean, you can kind of now see how this works over here, although I'm not sure if it's working properly, but there is a little flap in there that's a gate that goes one way or the other, so the ball is diverted one way or the other when it's coming from the top. And then, while I was messing with it, one of the drop targets fell apart. So we've got new drop targets coming. You can actually get those. There's a gentleman, I think he watches our channel out here. I believe he commented in one of the previous videos that he makes the drop targets. So I'm going to order some of those from him. And I think we're ready to start some of the electronic stuff. First thing I want to do is let's check out those lights he was talking about. Now, he said something about that you could just pull the light right out of the thing. So he thought it was damaged or something, and that he didn't want to put the caps on until we figured that out. There's also some stuff that I saw in the manual that I want to read over. If you didn't watch the previous videos, I mentioned it at the beginning of this one, but we had a coil that was locking on, and then we had a switch that was locked on before, and then I couldn't get any of the switches to work. When we tested it last time, blah, 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 somebody was telling me it could be the runway switch. We'll see about that. But so we've got some electronic stuff to work through. The game board itself also is supposed to be kind of updated. There's some updates to do. There's a website, flippers.com. There's a guy that runs that named John Robertson, who's kind of like the expert on these things. He's worked on a ton of these and just has a soft spot for the Allied Leisure cocktail tables. So at the moment, we've only got this sitting here. I'm going to go pull that back out. That one's actually attached. I'm waiting on a part for the flipper to permanently attach this, but like I said, we're going to switch them out with nylon ones anyways. I'm going to lift up the Playfield, and we'll see how the lights work on the pop bumpers, make sure they're fine, and then we can put the caps back on. So here are the pop bumpers. The lamps just stick down through the base and have the wire soldered to them. So it looks like if that wire was turned just right, you probably could pull it way up out of the machine. But it looks like everything's, I don't see any broken wires or anything. I think they're all fine. So we can go ahead and clean up the pop bumper caps and put them back on. All right. Those look fantastic. Very cool. All right, so I want to show you something that I found in one of the manuals for these that talks about switches and solenoids and stuff. Okay, so here is the manual. This game works really strangely. It's just a strange design where it doesn't have an MPU. It uses Riot chips, I believe they're called. 6530 chips. We'll get all into that later, but test mode info. There is a test mode. You must remove ball from out hole before starting test mode. So why is that? It's because the thing can't run if there's a switch stuck. It's just a weird setup. Okay. When in the stuck switch test, all switches must be open or game will not proceed to the next test mode. 3. Machine is programmed to ignore all switches if a stuck closed switch is detected during gameplay. The exception is if a coil drive switch is stuck closed. The computer will ignore that switch and continue gameplay. Now, the situation we were in was the right pop bumper would lock on immediately whenever you turned on the machine. Now, is that because there was a switch stuck, or is that because the coil drive is stuck? It could be that the switch is stuck. But it says the exception is if a coil drive switch is stuck closed, the computer will ignore that switch and continue gameplay. So we got to figure out what's stuck, you know. If another coil drive switch is stuck closed, the first stuck switch will be reactivated and the second switch will be ignored. So let's read that again. If a coil drive switch is stuck closed, the computer will ignore that switch and continue gameplay. If another coil drive switch is stuck closed, the first stuck switch will be reactivated and the second switch will be ignored. So it's not capable of ignoring two switches. Game will not score if ball in play switch, ball shooter trough, does not make contact of start of each ball in play. Now I had a viewer write that in the comments on the last video whenever we were testing it. So maybe we'll test it one more time and just see what kind of action we're getting. And then we'll see if we can go into this test mode and we'll make a list of what's working and what's not working. So we'll figure out what we need to repair. All right, so I put a shiny brand new ball in it and we have 0 credits on it. Now, there's so much to do on this thing. There is a button hanging out of it that I think is a credit switch. Maybe not. I think they may have intended it as a credit switch. Let's see if this switch will work. It did, and the game did not like that. Let's turn it back off. All right, we're back where we were. So when I hit this switch, it kind of stayed down because the spring isn't working very well. And you heard a click, and then the game kind of got some strobing on the displays. It did not like that. That's part of the problem that screws these things up too, is if something gets shorted to one of the switches, it can screw up the game board. I think I've been using this one to add credits to it. Let's see if that still works. Yes. 1 credit. And the displays are still fine. So we'll try another one. That switch is getting stuck down. Now the knocker you're hearing is because there's a free credit, or a quarter credit. Notice there are 2 meters. They have added this one in, or one of them in. See the line here running down through there? That's all been added. That's not official. That explains that other transformer that was back there too, that I didn't know what it was for. There is a relay just hanging back there that they have added in, which I guess is a relay to make the coin meter work. We will be getting rid of that. We don't need that crap. All right, so now that it's done that, we're going to hit start and see if anything locks on. Nothing locked on. All right, so let's try scoring something, and then we'll try hitting the trough switch. All right, yep, so nothing's scoring. Let's see if we hit the trough switch, what happens. We've hit the trough switch. I think those stopped flashing. Weren't they just flashing? So now let's see if we get anything. Okay, so that one works. This thing is so simple, I wouldn't be surprised if there's only a few switches actually. Like that's 500, that's 500, and it says advanced bonus. That's really the same switch if you think about it. It's just in a different spot. It says 500. And we haven't messed with the chimes yet, so they don't sound that great. So it said Spade 500. Forfeit, collect, forfeit. We haven't read the instructions yet. Let's read the instructions. Bottom kickers advance heart and spade values, which is right there under the pop bumpers. When both card values are on 4,000, all kings score the special. King was here. King is there. Where are our other kings? Oh, the kings are the 2 targets behind the drop targets. Both red and black drop targets down once scores double bonus, twice scores triple bonus. That's pretty cool. So they say scores the bonus, so that would be cool. So if you just knock down both drop targets, it's going to give you double whatever the bonus is, or does it mean turns on the double bonus? It says scores. On last ball, designated bullseye target scores 1 extra ball. Bullseye target. Designated bullseye target. This says King of Hearts extra ball when lit. Designated bullseye target. I don't see anything with that, so maybe that's what that is. Maybe that target originally looked like a bullseye. Only 1 extra ball awarded per player per game. Card bonus is collected at the end of each ball. Okay. We'll just see if everything scores. That should be 500. Lots of 500s. Here's another 500. All right. So we did that one. Let's do this one. We haven't messed with the lights yet. Heart 500. Spade 500. Okay. This one's lit, right? It said collect hearts. $500 advance bonus and open the gate. Is that the gate open? I suppose. I wonder if there's any way to close the gate. I don't see that anywhere. All right. Hearts value. Spade 500. Forfeit. Hearts value maybe? Forfeit heart 500 bonus. Forfeit spade 500. Open gate. Well, we've about tried everything. Advance bonus, open gate. That gate can kind of just go either way. So I just closed it. Let's see if this will open it. Oh, that's opening it. Okay. Yeah, it must have just been stuck. We'll have to mess with that mech. Yeah, it's holding strong this way now. Close gate, and you see that relaxed it a little bit. So that's just not moving the way it should. Let's see if we open gate now, if it'll do it. That's trying. It's sticking. We'll get that. All right, so the gate needs work. It seems to me like everything's working, though. Hit that. Okay, the center pop bumper's not working, and the right one we've got disconnected. It still may score, though. Yeah. All right, and then I guess we can see if the drop target does anything. I kind of hit that, though. They both can't drop because the one's missing. Which ones am I forgetting? I think that's all of them. Yeah, so they're kind of all working. I haven't seen how you advance the ace or the spade value, though. That says forfeit spade. Collect hearts value. Forfeit spade. Forfeit spade value. This is just weird. Oh, it didn't say. It was change hearts value, change spade value. Okay. 2, 3, 4. 2. Ooh. Oh, it moves around, so it can roll over too. A little machine gun action going on there just for all of you action movie fans. So if they're both on 4, King of Spades, special when lit. But that bumper isn't working. Alright, so the middle bumper needs work, the gate needs work. The board kind of works fine, except for that right pop bumper being stuck on. Let's see if we can figure that out. Let's figure out the middle pop bumper switch not working. And let's figure out the gate sticking. Alright, so we're still in gameplay. Luckily I have a steady hand, so I won't get shocked doing this. Look. What? I better take my watch off. It's going to get dirty. You just wait until I get my watch off. You think I won't fix it? Definitely going to fix it. Alright, so the game is still in gameplay. Very carefully. Don't do this at home. If I press the switch, it works fine. So what's the problem? It's the switch is just a little bit too far apart or needs clean. So that's going to be fine. So that's that. This is the drop target that's screwed up. The whole thing fell apart. Got that coming, hopefully. And this is the wire to this coil that's locked on. So we got to figure that one out. The board does have transistors that lock them on, or that make them work just like every other pinball machine. My guess is that one of those is screwed up. But I don't know for sure, but that would be my guess. What was the other one? Wasn't there one more? Oh, the gate. This is the gate. So all these companies had a different design for that. There's a coil that pulls in, and there's always a kind of strange little setup. When it's one way, the little thing turns one way, and when it's the other way, it moves through that little track and turns the other way. So what's usually the problem with these is that they're just filthy. It may be the post going through the Playfield, but something will just be dirty. So I need to clean that and maybe even oil the shaft going through the Playfield. I think it's going through plastic, though. You don't really have to move oil plastic, but it's either that, it's just there's something jamming there where it's just getting stuck. You saw how if I forced it, it just went. So that just needs cleaned up. You can see right now that the relay is actually pulled in, so it's working fine. It just isn't strong enough to pull it in, and it isn't strong to let it spring back. And you can see the spring there. That actually is what springs it back. So dirt. So I'll try to clean that up a little bit. I'll adjust that middle bumper a little bit, and then we'll see if we can track down that right pop bumper problem. So if you look at how that works, there's that pin, and when the relay pulls in, it's moving that pin along that track, and that is making that turn, which moves the thing on the top. So the problem was, it's metal on metal, and it was binding a little bit, so I put some grease on it. So what grease did I use, folks? All you normal viewers, what grease did I use? That's right, I used our multi-purpose synthetic super lube grease. It's dielectric, but that doesn't matter in this situation. So it just needed a little grease. Now, this stuff we use when we work on EMs because it's dielectric. Works great for EMs. So we keep a bunch of this around. It works on all kinds of stuff. It's like, boy, their marketing has failed because I can't remember the name. It's not Grey Poupon. What's the stuff that the lady says, I put that bleep on everything? It's hot sauce, isn't it? Some kind of hot sauce. So anyway, I put this stuff on everything. Now, you can get this at your hardware store. But we sell it too. So if you go on our website, lionsarcade.com, we have a bunch of stuff like this on there. That's stuff that we use whenever we do repairs. And it's links to things. There's a parts page at the top of lionsarcade.com with a whole bunch of this kind of stuff on it, and stuff that we use whenever we repair things. There's links to Amazon to buy the stuff. If you follow any of those links, it tells your computer, hey, Lions Arcade, Joe's Video Games sent you here. And so it gives us a tip for anything you buy, even if it's not this. Let's say you go in there and you buy yourself a Super Mario Brothers pinball machine. It would give us a small little percentage of it. So we appreciate everybody that supports the channel by doing that. Get you some of this regardless. So that has fixed that. It moves like butter now. Look at that, no problem. I cleaned the switch and adjusted it a little bit closer on that one. So now we need to check out this. It's a little hard to figure that out. I think I'm just going to have to go ahead and, I'm going to just go ahead and pull out the board so we can just look at the transistors. There's a bunch of updates and stuff we need to do to the board too. I don't know if we're going to go do all of them right now, but we'll at least get it out and look at it. Maybe we'll find the transistor problem and then put it back in and get the game running. And then on next time we'll do the final little mods. Because I still have to wait for my drop target. I have to wait for Matt's nylon flippers. And I'm still waiting on a Paul for that right flipper there to put it together. But we're getting really close. We've still got to change all the light bulbs too. But we're getting there. So let me pull out the board. Let's get another look at it and see if we can find a transistor that's shorted. All right, so here is the game board. Now, I mentioned earlier a gentleman named John Robertson. He runs flippers.com. He knows all about these, and so he's over the years came up with a bunch of like tech tips and service ideas for these. So we're going to follow some of that advice. Maybe not right now, like I said, but I'll just show you around the board real quick, and then we'll test these transistors to see about that coil locking there. Now, this one has a connector up here that isn't used on, I don't think, any of the games. It's certainly not used on this one. It slides down into these three connectors, and then you have the connectors that plug in here. There's a connector missing here. That would presumably be the connector that goes to the back box, but there's no back box on this. Now, why would it have that connector? It's because this was Allied Leisure, and they're trying to make pinball machines. So they were going to make full-size ones, which they did make a few. So they were just trying to make, you know, the board. Allied Leisure, if you don't know, was a big time company. I mean, they weren't Gottlieb, but they were, well, at one time they may have been, I don't know, but they had a ton of machines that they were making. It was a serious company that had a lot of stuff that's no longer with us, unfortunately. So I'll show you what's going on. Now, I am not a engineer, so I don't understand most of this stuff. Okay, that's a 6520, which is the same as a 6821 or a 6820. Those chips are called peripheral interface adapters, PIA chips. So they're controllable so that they can, just like it sounds, interface with peripheral things. So they're used as in-out chips a lot of times. So, for instance, one might control all of the lamps. One might control all of the all of the switches. One might control all of the solenoids, et cetera, right? So these can be replaced easily. And notice they're socketed too. So that's a 6520. Another 6520. A third 6520. And then an MPS 6504. I have no clue what that is. Crystal. We've looked at the schematics a little bit on these. So this is 7442, 7404, a 75492. You don't see that too often. 75492. All of these, of course, you can look up and see what they do. 75492, 75492, 492, 7404. So a lot of it's just regular 7400 series logic. And again, you just saw pretty much the board is working fine. Now, a problem that they had that John talks about is, this is the first version of the board. There's like 4 different versions of the board that he's identified. And one of the problems that they had was some of the switches, if they short to voltage, it could even be static electricity might do it. They're directly connected to some of the more rare chips on the board. And that can fry the chip, the expensive chips that we're about to show. So some of the later versions of this board, instead of just having it directly connected, the board was a little bit taller. If you look in that cocktail, you'll notice that the brackets that hold this in are actually like up here. That's because this board probably came out of something else. Now, this is the first version of the board. John basically says, don't even try to repair this board. Just use the later versions because they're better versions. They made updates to them. The problem I have is this board completely works, it appears, unless we run into something really bad with that solenoid. So I kind of want to keep using this board. I do have a couple parts boards, but I can't quite get crazy enough to take a working board and take parts off of it to try to make a parts board work. So this board's going to be in it, right? We'll see if we can update it, though, to make it more reliable. But, I mean, how much more reliable than still working from 1977 do we need to be? Just saying. I'm just saying, folks. So on those boards, like I said, it's a little bit taller, and in this area there are some diodes to protect some of those lines, so that the thought being, if a voltage goes down that line, it can't get back to the chip. The diode will stop it, right? Now, these resistors, as I understand, are stay-on resistors or something like that. The resistors basically keep the lamps heated up so that they can quickly turn on and off. John recommends taking these all off and replacing them with diodes because that way it will protect if voltage comes back down one of the lamp lines. Now, how would that happen? Well, let's say you got a solenoid here and it doesn't work right, so someone has cut the wire loose and the wire is just hanging down in there and it leans over and it touches one of the lamps. Well, you just sent, I think it's 27 volts or something, 26 volts through the lamp that's supposed to be 5 volts or whatever into the chip, and it might not like that, right? So that's the thought process behind that. These are actually the dip switches. It's like an operator switchboard. I'll show you how it works. If you look at the top, it tells you what each one is. Replay adjustment. So the first replay score, if you look, there are 3 sets of wires there. And so you move that wire down the line to whatever you want the replay score to be. So you can see the top one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And it's like that all the way across. So if you wanted to be 190,000, you would have it on, well, let's see it. Right now it's on 120,000, I believe, right? So at 120,000, you win a free game, second replay score, third replay score, blah, blah, blah. Credit adjustment. Maximum credits it can hold right now are 10. So it's set on 1 and 0. Credit programming. 1, 2, 3. So it's if switch number 1's hit, how many credits do you get? Switch number 2's hit, how many credits do you get? Blah, blah, blah. So they're all set on 1. And then this first one is credit option. They have it set on 1. I don't know what that is. It might say in the manual. I would imagine it does. This says run replay lineup. Test, add a ball, inhibit. So, I don't know. Again, stuff that would be in the manual. Okay, so 6520, 6520, 6520, 6520, which are also 6821s. And then this is a 6504. Not sure what that is. The size of it would make me think maybe a RAM. Here's yet another 6520. Why would you need 4 of them? Here is a 5th 6520. So why would you need 5 of them? Switches, and you might keep it separate, right? Switches, solenoids, lamps, display, and they may have had a 5th one to bat cleanup. I don't know. And then here's the star of our show. That is a 6530 with a date code of 577 on it. So that was made in May of 1977, which makes it a pretty vintage chip. And I think they said this was called a Riot chip. Now you'll notice this one has been changed. And it was made in the 25th week of 78. And it looks nothing like that one. And then if you get down here, this one says 0577. And if you look, see how this one says 011? Interesting. This one also says 11. And this one says 10. I was under the impression that they need to be 9, 10, 11. So this is 10, 11, 11. Interesting. John was saying that that won't work like that. But it appears to be working like it, so I don't know. Again, I'm not going to fix something that's not broke. Okay, and then you move over here, and we have solenoids, and they all have a little cap beside them, or two caps beside them. So when this sinks to ground, it's going to violently make the coil pull in. You can see how these things have like a little... They've been plastic coated. I wonder if they really plastic coated them at the factory. Did they just dip that in plastic coat? So my theory is maybe one of those is locked on, and that's why the solenoid is locked on. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn it over and just test all these in circuit and just see if any of them give me a different test. Now, I don't even know what they are. We can look, but all I'm going to do is see if this one is like that one. And then I'm going to see if that one is like that one. And I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to find one that's completely different. And then we're going to look in the manual and see if that one appears to be the right pop bumper. Another thing I was going to say, how did they just switch the game board into this machine? It's because all of the ROMs were the same. There's no, you notice there's no processor. It's just all doing its thing, right? With a clock and discrete logic and all that. Again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't completely understand it. But these chips have ROM capabilities, RAM capabilities, and in-out capabilities. So it's just real complex stuff. John makes a replacement for that. You can remove these 3 chips that run the board and put a new board on it with a new setup that can run it. So if you get in a problem where those are all screwed up, they can be replaced. Okay, so let me test these and see what I run into. All right, so you can see the board here, and there are a whole bunch of jumpers on the back where they have cut some things and moved some things around. So they may have done some kind of input protection on it in the past trying to help the thing, but it's got all kinds of stuff changed on it. And when I'm testing through with my fancy dancy fluke here, what I'm doing is I'm just taking the red lead and I'm putting it on the middle pin of the transistors, and then I'm putting the black lead on the outside legs. Maybe I gotta do it the other way. Black lead on the middle pin. Come on now. I'm trying to give y'all a show. There we go. Black lead on the middle, red lead on the outside legs. I'm getting 0.479 there, and then over here I'm getting 0.510, right? So that's like a logic gate. That's a voltage drop for a diode, basically. So we're testing transistors, though, right? So 0.505, 0.484. Now, you notice those numbers are different, but they're pretty close, so it doesn't matter. Each one's going to be a little different. So, you know, one of them's giving you 505, and one of them's giving you 510. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. That's not what you're looking for, right? So here's the third one. 0.501, 0.479. So the meter is sending a volt or whatever out, a little something, a millivolt or whatever it is, and then it's catching it on the other side, and it's giving you a number of how much of it got through. right? Or how much of it lost or whatever, right? Now, if we move over to this one, if we go to the top one, oh, hell, it's shorted. So that's not 0.5. That's 0.006, which is pretty much what you get if it's just touching. It's shorted. So that transistor, or something in the circuit around that transistor, is just straight up shorted. Now if we go to the other leg, 0.258. That's probably because the outside legs have a relationship, and since the center leg is shorted to this leg, and it has a relationship with this leg, it gives you a weird thing, right? So we are for a ride. And I tested the other ones and they're not. So it's just that one, right? So look, folks, we're gonna get there. Don't worry, folks. Don't worry about it. It's all right. There's a Game Boy in the way. It's all right. And don't even ask me why that's in it. That's not mine. I bought some stuff online. That was with it. I don't know if it was a threat. I don't know. I don't think it was. I think the guy was just selling me the stuff he isn't using right now. Okay. So it's this one, which is hard to read. Q62, I believe. Q62, folks. So let's look on my super duper schematics that I have and see what Q62 is. My guess is it's the right pop bumper. So sure enough, that is the right pop bumper. Now I have replaced it with a tip 3055. It looks completely different than the other ones. I hope that one's not fake. I don't think it is. Usually if I've got them, it's because I ordered them from something else. And this one's just really old, you know, so you know, that date code probably means the 25th week of 1975. It's just old stuff. This is literally before I was born. They made this chip. Crazy. Man, I'm young. But you can tell it's melted. The plastic coat melted off of it. Must have got really hot. Now, why would it do that? Maybe the switch was stuck. I don't know. You know, it said on the paperwork that it will turn the coil off, but then it said when it gets to if another switch sticks on, it'll turn this one back on. So it could just be that it, whatever. It also could be that one of the PIAs is screwed up and it's locking it on. But all we can do is swap it and try it and see if that fixed the problem. And if not, we'll try something else. But that'll be the only thing we do to it this time. And then we'll decide what kind of updates we want to do to it. I still have to, like I said, replace all of the lamps in it. I'm waiting on a drop target. I'm waiting on flipper parts. So we still got work to do. And then, of course, we have to play it. But let's slide this back in and see if that... I'm going to reattach the coil and see if that fixed our coil locking on. Oh, and two more things. One, why didn't I do the test to make sure that the switch isn't stuck locking the coil on? We know that's not true because whenever I hit the right switch, it scored each time. So that switch isn't stuck on. And that's what makes the right thumper bumper work. Thumper bumper. So that's one. And then two, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. I started mentioning it, but I don't know if I got sidetracked or not. These boards are the same in every machine. They don't have different ROMs. So these chips are not different in each machine. And the way they made that work was the games all play the same. They have 5 balls or 3 balls. Like, I don't even know if you can change it to 3 ball on this, but they have 5 balls. You've got an out-hole switch. You've got the runway switch we were talking about. You've got several lamps. You've got several switches. The score things are what they are, so you can make things score 10 points, 100 points, 1,000 points, however you want to do it. So the way they designed the new machines was they took the board that already existed with the code that already existed and then just changed where everything was on the playfield. Think how funny that is. So they just put the switches in different places. And if you think about it, that would work just fine. There's no reason that wouldn't work. They have a bonus that is built into the code for the bonus to work, and then to collect if this switch is hit, you know. And it just, I'm sure all of the games have similar rules, but you could get a lot of variation out of it by just moving stuff around on the playfield. And a drop target that hits a switch when the target goes down. You know, basically you could have it set up where there's 4 of those or 2 of those or whatever. And they just moved the stuff around on the playfield and got a whole new game out of it. So you can take the board out of one and just simply slide it right into another one. They're all the same. So we're going to slide ours back in ours and see if it'll work. All right, so we've got the wire board installed back in and the wire installed back in. Did not lock on, that's good. So either it's fixed or I didn't get the wire on good. It could be either. Let's try putting a credit on it. I don't have the ball in it, do I? All right. Yeah, so see, this flashes, and then if you hit the runway switch, it turns off. I've been noticing whenever it starts at 400,000. After it's on for a few seconds, it switches to a zeros, but I don't know. Fixed our middle one that was messed up. Fixed our left one, and here we go. Yeah. All right, now the gate. We can that opens it. Close. I hate to open gate. That's still not right. Close the gate. It closes. It's just not quite right. We still got to mess with that a little bit. It wants to do it. Well, we still got to mess with that, folks. We've about had it. We need more super lube on it, maybe. But, yeah, see how the 4 went away? That's something. We haven't messed with any of that yet. It might be a bad connection on it. I think we're looking pretty good. I think all the coils are working. I'm not sure about the drop targets. That left one's down, but the right one is not down. I've got the switch adjusted so it's not shorted or anything. And it may just reset them when they're both down. But we still may have a problem with that where that's not resetting like it should. So I don't know. All right, but that's cool. So we're making pretty good progress. Tell me what you think. I'm trying to do like a lot of videos going over every little thing on this because there aren't that many videos repairing these on YouTube, and we've only done this one. So I'm trying to make a whole series here because ultimately what I would like is to see people pick these up. They're cheap if you can find them usually. And then work through them. They can be repaired. So worst case, if it's got the board in it and it's not completely damaged, notice there's no battery on the board, right? So worst case, that board can be rebuilt, and John makes that that sub board that replaces the 3 hard to get chips. The rest of it you can get. So I'm trying to inspire people to pull these out of storage. A lot of people have left messages saying, I've got one of those in storage. Bring them on out, folks. It's time to fix all of them. We're going to save every one of these Allied Leisure cocktail pinball machines. Now, if you like these strange machines like this, we've done some before. Not a cocktail pinball machine, but we've done other pinball machines that were weird. Check this one out. We'll see you next time whenever we're working on this one a little bit farther.